Hey friends. So this week we're talking about how to celebrate your progress, how to even see the progress that you're making. Because a lot of times we don't even see that. So the question was like how to celebrate victories, the small victories. And I think the reason we kind of get stuck on that is because we can't even see the small victories, right? So if you can't see it, you can't celebrate it. And then how to stop beating yourself up when we're not hitting PRs. I know, like, if you guys have watched a lot of these, like, some of the things I talk about are like the same thing every week, but that's like how important this is and how our mindset and our beliefs really do permeate every area of our lives. Okay. So, first, I have a question that I want you guys to like write down, consider, ponder. Okay. When we're trying to see the small victories, the question is, what are you focusing on? So when you are showing up doing the CrossFit workouts, what are you focusing on during that hour? What are you focusing on after you finish that workout? Where are you directing your mind to go and look for evidence? Okay. Because in the previous ones, we've talked about if we have a belief, this belief then triggers the abbreviation RAS, the reticular activating system. That's a part of our brain that goes out and seeks evidence for beliefs. Okay, so the RAS is constantly looking for evidence to prove beliefs true that we have in our brain. So, what are you focusing on? Because that's going to give you a really good indication of what belief system you're trying to gather evidence for. Okay. So if you're thinking about it and you're like, well, I'm focusing on seeing whether I can finally do these freaking butterfly pull-ups or not, right? If you take a moment and you pause, that statement right there tells you you don't believe that you can do butterfly pull-ups. If you're focusing on the fact, I want to see whether I can finally do these butterfly pull-ups, that implies you don't believe that you can, because a person that believed they could wouldn't have that question. They would say, I wonder how much better, how much closer I am to getting these pull-ups, these butterflies. I know I can get them. How much closer am I to getting it? Not, I wonder if I can. Do you see the difference in those two? And it's really tricky. Our brain is just a master of like this like smoke and mirror stuff. It doesn't do blatant things like I don't believe I can ever do butterfly pull-ups. It's always got a very sneaky angle if I can finally do them. That right there is an indication that your brain does not believe that you can do them. And then the other question that you guys, I would ask you to consider, how are you measuring your progress? Is it an all or nothing approach? Okay, I've been practicing butterfly pull-ups for 3 times a week for 2 weeks. I'm gonna go do it. Didn't get them this time. Are you measuring it based on the absolute outcome? Or are you measuring it on incremental progress? There's a really fantastic book that my book club's reading this month. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's really good. And he talks about a 1% increase. So he goes into the bicycling team. I think it's Europe's bicycling team, and how they were just kind of mediocre. And the coach came in, instead of focusing on huge big changes for this team to make them actually competitive and to place in the top three spots, he started focusing on the little tiny things like their wardrobe, the temperature of the environment they were training in, the type of tires that were on their bikes. And by focusing on those little tiny things, he was getting a 1% increase, right? And these 1% increases compounded to make a big increase. And they ended up winning first place, I think multiple years in a row, actually. So that's kind of where I'm leading into, is like, how are you measuring your progress? If it's an all or nothing thinking, like I either get these butterfly pull-ups, I go and do them and I either get them or I don't, and that's how I'm measuring success or failure. Or are we measuring like, oh, this time I was actually able to keep a rhythm. This time I was actually able to do one in a rhythm. This time, like the incremental, right? If we can get our brain to focus on the 1% increase, then we start seeing these small victories, right? We stop expecting ourselves to show up like, I've been doing CrossFit for 2 years. I do not understand why I am not Annie Thorsdotter's level, right? It's because I'm using absolute thinking, like I should be able to do all these things to measure my success, instead of saying, okay, I've been doing it for 2 years. Here's where I started. Here's where I'm currently, and here's where I'm headed, and focusing on the incremental increases to where you're headed. Yeah. And then the other thing is reframing failure. Okay. And this is a hard one for people because we've been conditioned that when you take, so for me, it took 5 years to get my double unders, right? We are conditioned that that means that Kim's not very athletic, right? I didn't catch on quick enough, right? I'm a slow learner, whatever. I'm not, whatever, right? Whatever we're conditioned to. It just meant that like I wasn't enough. Instead of saying, you know, I learned. I didn't practice a lot, honestly. I would get frustrated. I would get tired of whipping myself and I'd quit. And I'd go back to just doing single unders. Or I would get, I'm going to tell myself, I would get so mad after whipping myself a couple times. I was that athlete that would throw a fit, throw her rope across the room, and go stomping off, right? Which absolutely helps the situation. So, because I kept making the failure mean that I wasn't a good athlete, that I wasn't a good CrossFitter. And so that decreased my desire to want to work on it. It decreased my desire to get better at it. It's because I just kept getting frustrated and I'd get angry and I'd throw a fit. And then I kept, my RAS kept gaining evidence. I can't do this. I'm not good at this. I'm never going to get this. And that's what I kept creating for myself for 5 years. Okay. One day I was doing a workout with a guy and he was like, you've got to get better at your double unders. Like, you're slowing us down. You got to get better at them. And at that point, I just quit making it mean something about who I was as an athlete. And my brain shifted to, I just got to go do the work. That's it. It means nothing about me. I just got to go do the work. And so I started diving into YouTube videos. I started asking everyone that was even halfway decent at double unders, teach me something, show me, help me, help me, help me. And because I was open-minded and I had moved away from it meaning that I wasn't a good athlete to, I just got to get better. I just got to get better at these. And I took the pressure off myself and I just went to work and I practiced them and I practiced. And finally it clicked one day. Literally. And now I can do 50 unbroken double unders in less than 30 seconds. Like, right? So we've got to reframe failure. To be a good CrossFit athlete, to be successful in your profession, to be a great parent, to be a great partner, we have to look at failure as an opportunity for us to pivot and practice. That's it. It means nothing else about you. That's it. Failure simply, from my definition at this point in my life, is me quitting. If I quit my business, if I quit showing up, I failed. That's it. Everything else in between just means it's an opportunity for me to learn and pivot, learn and pivot. That's it. It's an opportunity for me to grow, to maximize my potential, to become my highest self, the best version of me. We all know that that's how we learn the best, is through failure. We don't like it. That's where our biggest lessons have come from. And then another thing I want to add, because I just learned this about myself, is I spent years, I'll use my six pack example, right? I've been an athlete since I was 13, been in the gym since I was 16. I'm now 40. I eat healthy, never had a six pack. Okay. Because I have always tried actions, take a lot of actions, do a lot of actions, try this, try this, try this, do all these actions, right? Because actions are going to create results for me. And when I get the result of a six pack, then I can believe I can have a six pack. Okay. A lot of us do this. We do a lot of actions. We're trying to get the results so we can believe we can have something. The actions don't create those results. So we quit. We get burned out. We get defeated. We get discouraged, right? Because we're looking for actions to create our belief. And it doesn't work. I haven't had a six pack 20 years. You would think I would learn. That's insanity. Doing the same thing over and over. But I couldn't see it. My brain hid that from me until I got coaching. And my coach was like, look, you have to believe first. You have to believe that you can have a six pack, because then you'll take different actions. And those actions then will deliver the result of a six pack, not the other way around. And when you believe first, the journey's so much easier, because I'm no longer spending time taking all these actions to create results that are not getting me what I want. I already believe. So then I take these actions. Some work, some don't work. But I know I'm going to get the results I want because I already believe. Okay. So I have another example. I love examples. I have a CrossFit competition this weekend, right? And one of the WODs is a clean and jerk ladder. Okay. And my heaviest clean and jerk has been 125. Okay. I'm 130 pounds. It's my heaviest. And I decided I have to carry the team. I gotta do better than 125. So I've been practicing this week. I've been getting coaching, adjusting my technique, right? But you know what I also did? I have a mindset. I already decided I'm going to get that 135. I haven't ever got it before. I already decided I'm going to get it. So every time I go up to that bar, I'm like, I may not get it this time, but I'm getting it this weekend. And I think I just grab the bar, I go through my technique, and step by step in my brain, what I'm supposed to be doing. I do it. I almost hit it yesterday. I got it to here, right? Didn't get it yet, but I still believe I will get it Saturday. And because I already believe I get it, my form has gotten so much better. Like I'm already that close. Like if I can hit it here, that means I can push it on out. I can get it on out, right? I did a 10-pound PR jump simply because I got in here and I decided I can do this, right? And I wasn't looking for, I didn't think, well, when I actually hit 135, then I'll believe I can do 135. I reverse engineered it. I believe I can get 135. I will get 135. I'll tell you next Thursday. I will have 135. I know it. So, questions on that part?
Well, I have a question. Well, you said reframing failure. Failure is an opportunity to pivot and practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just like I don't exactly know. Sometimes, what maybe it's a sign, like a life sign that maybe it's not yours. Like I'm speaking about personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pursuing something very hard, and it was not happening for me. And there were signs, that I just kept, I didn't listen to the signs, I kept pushing to get what I wanted. And now I'm kind of learning that, like sometimes there are signs in life that I should not ignore. And maybe, when it's not happening easily, maybe it's a sign that I should not pursue it. It's not mine. But maybe when it's something that's meant for you, doors will open easily. So I'm confused myself. So, sometimes I don't know, like, like, is it a sign, maybe you should not pursue something because it's not yours? Or you have, because I was raised with pursue, doesn't matter how hard it is, you have to push forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of had a couple of lessons in life that, sometimes it's not yours, it's not your door to open.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's kind of the woo world, which I love the woo world.
Mhm.
But here would be my question for you. Like, I think it goes back to intuition, right?
Mhm.
Like, um, was it your intuition that was saying like this isn't the right thing? Like, were you feeling it in your body and your intuition, like this doesn't align with me, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, and you just overrode that? Or was it like you felt aligned, like this is for me, this is what I want, but it was externally the doors were being closed?
I think it's the second one, because I mean, one of the lessons I also learned is not to get attached to the result,
Mhm.
because I wanted it. I wanted it badly. And I lived it, like in my head, I was too attached to the result, like I lived in that house, or I lived in Europe, and that's like two big things, that kind of, two big lessons in my life, so where I had to, learn that, it's out of my control. And it's not my door to open. But I thought that it was mine for sure. And I thought it was meant to be mine.
What's to say that it isn't still?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, well, the first lesson, that's definitely not happening. And the second one, um, I don't know, it may happen again, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of I decided that I will be pursuing different thing, because that's probably why it did not happen, because my destiny is to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I don't ever want to, like, in the spiritual world, I never want to oppose someone's spiritual beliefs. I too adhere to that same belief system. What I learned about myself was, though, that it was, how do I say this? For me personally, it was an excuse outlet, because it was opportunities when something didn't go my way, right? It was just opportunities for me to quit and say, the universe didn't have that for me. Instead, when I reframed it to, the universe has this for me, but it's expecting me to learn something, and it may not be easy, right? Because my friend used to have that belief system. It should all be easy. And I just don't personally like, why? That would be my question. Why should it all be easy? Who says it should all be easy? Where did we come up with, like, who came up with that it should all be easy? Because there's 7 billion people on the planet, and as far as I know, life is not easy for any one of them.
Yes, and that's how I was raised, that life is a struggle, life is not easy, but maybe
Wait.
that is like,
It's not just a struggle either, right? I don't believe it's all just a struggle. I believe it's 50-50. The human experience is good and beautiful, and the human experience is also a struggle, that it's not one or the other.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I just don't know. Maybe it's kind of like a bit of a scarcity mindset.
We don't like being
Uh,
disappointed.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Like I'm not sure if that is. I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know if it's correct mindset, like that life is hard. I don't know.
Does it serve you?
No, for me, like I definitely always felt that I was lucky in life, and I was things went fairly easy for me, like I thought so. And I had that belief, and it helped me. It helps me.
Yeah.
Where I feel like for my spouse, he feels like life is a struggle, and you have to work hard for something. And I don't like that
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah, I no, I agree. I don't adhere to either one. I don't believe that everything should be easy, and I don't believe that life is a struggle. I think that it's the balance in between, that it gets to be both. Um, for me, that's what serves me. So then there's not so much when things don't go my way, it's not this big disappointing, like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. The universe doesn't have my back, right? It's like, oh
Mhm,
yeah, this is the human experience. It
mhm,
it didn't happen, right? Like I get to pivot now. If I want it, I get to pivot, right? For me, it's when I had that intuition, like with my ex-husband. I knew I was not, like, and my gut said, do not marry him, right? But the wedding invitations were already sent out. So I overrode that. I was like, nope, not listening to you.
mhm.
And it turned out terribly, right? And that's why I ask, like, is it an intuition thing? I think we should definitely honor our intuition. When our intuition, like, if your intuition said, like, I don't, we, Europe is not us, like, that's not it, then yeah, the door is closing, like, totally makes sense. But if it's like aligned with who you are and the door is closing, for me, like, oh, that's just an opportunity for Jana to learn how to pivot. Do
Mhm.
you really want this? It's kind of like the question the universe asked me. Do you really want this? All right, we're all in. There's gonna be hurdles. You got to show me how bad you want this. It's just my perspective.
Okay. And what is your outtake? Like, what's your take on competitiveness? Like, let's say at CrossFit,
Yeah.
let's say I mean, of course, yes, we're cheering all for each other, but sometimes, it makes, if I'm in a class, I'm not good, and I haven't done it in many months because we're still on lockdown. This is the third lockdown and it's been like 3 months. I haven't done CrossFit. Well, I haven't gone to the gym, but I know that I do like the feeling of when I succeed, like I'm somewhere in the middle, not one of the best but not one of the worst,
Yeah.
and I know it's bad to compare yourself to other people, but I cannot help, sometimes it does happen.
I,
So
I think that that's like, I think it's a beautiful thing, right? Like in our brain, we love that dopamine hit, right? When we are successful, like we get a dopamine hit, and that feels so good to us. Yeah. I think it's when it's managed well, competitiveness is fantastic. But when you're using competitiveness to find evidence that you're not enough, that's where it gets really twisted.
mhm.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I definitely, like, I know people, I always ask, oh, how much did you put, like if it's like a deadlift day or whatever, I'm always like asking, and they're always making fun of me. They're like, like, doesn't matter, like you do you, like, you just do better than you did last time, but I'm happy for success of my friends, it's but it does, I don't think I have like I'm envious of people doing better than I do, but I I think I need to work on RES, not my brain not looking, not seeking evidence of I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I
Is
did
that
not
what
grow
you're
up.
asking all them, how much they're doing? Is that what drives you to ask them the question? Like, how much are you putting on your deadlift? Like, what's the
Well,
why?
I think it's more statistics. I think it's more, I just like stats, I like numbers, like just like I started weighing myself since the second lockdown. It's just stats, just to see where you are, what makes your insulin spike or what make it doesn't. I don't know.
Challenge you on that. So what statistics are you trying to gather by their weight on their bars?
Oh, well, I guess like goals.
Your goals?
Yes. Well, because then it makes it achievable goal.
So you're looking for evidence that it's possible. I look
Yes.
over at Kim. I know, do you know how much these people weigh?
Well, the one girl I'm always asking, she's a bigger girl, and she
Okay.
lifts heavy.
Oh, so are you comparing an apple to an orange or apples to apples?
No. Well, sometimes, apples to apples, sometimes apples to oranges.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, people who are way ahead of me and better than me, I don't compare myself to, but people who are on a similar level, but
Okay.
it makes it, I don't know, I just feel that it makes it, for me, it kind of helps me that it's achievable, it's done by a person who started at the same time as I did, and like
Yeah. Yeah, that's
something like
fair.
that.
Like if you and I both started 3 years ago, right? And then you're like, hey, Kim, how much can you do on your deadlift? And I'm like, I'm at 255, right? And let's say you're at 240. It's
I
like,
wish I'm at like 190.
well, we're going to use this example 240, right? And you can say, like, okay, we're kind of similar athletes. Like, if she can do it, then it's possible for me. I think that's completely healthy and fine, right? Like, we need examples of what's possible for us so we can create the belief that we too can do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we use it in the other way, like, oh, well, now that how long have you been doing CrossFit?
Just a year.
Okay. So I've been doing it since 2012, right? So we are an apple and an orange, right? So you comparing your 190 to my 255, like that's where you can catch onto your brain that it's twisted. Like, no, you're wanting to compare me to Kim to show me where I'm failing because that's not a fair comparison, right?
Mhm.
If I'd only been doing it a year, okay. But I have thousands of reps on top of your reps,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, well, less than a year, because realistically
Right.
speaking, it's been 6 months of
Right.
time off for us.
Right. Right. So yeah, I think it's fine when we use it as an example of what is possible, not an example of how much I'm failing or how I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't like comparing myself to anybody, and we all have our strong points and weak points, right? Like we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Somebody is great at deadlift but cannot do toast bar or whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm great at deadlifts. I'm not very good at back squatting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I hate front squats with passion. Anything front loaded,
Yeah.
wall balls, thrusters. But that just shows my weakness, core weakness.
Yeah. An ability to see and work on that, or an ability to pivot, right? It means nothing about who you are as an athlete.
Hmm.
It just means like, hey, you've got core weakness issues. Let's go work on it. This will
Hmm.
make you a better all-rounded athlete.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
cool. All right, so how do we stop beating ourselves up? This is the second part. I think we've talked a lot about it. But the question is, I like to do on my journal or whatever. I'm like, when I'm feeling this kind of like just any negative emotion, really, is what am I making this mean about me? What story, another way to say it is, what story am I creating around this? Because that's all they are stories, right? We have an event, let's say Let's say that you go for a deadlift of 205, right? And you don't hit it. And then you go into like beating yourself up, right? Like, I've been back doing CrossFit for 2 months. I should have been able to hit this, blah, blah, blah. I've been training it, right? You simply not being able to grab a 205-pound barbell and stand it up is all that's happened. It's a human not being able to pull a barbell off the ground. That's it. But we create this whole story around it, or we make it mean something like, I am not doing it right. I'm not a good athlete. I'm not worthy. That's how what usually for us CrossFitters we tie into. If I'm not a good athlete, it really means I'm not worthy and enough as a human, and I'm not worthy to be respected. Right? I can't pull this 205 off the floor. I don't deserve any respect from anybody else because I'm not worthy and enough. And it's like, you're a human and it's a 205-pound barbell. That's all that's gone on in the universe. That's it. It's very neutral. So then we have to ask ourselves, what meaning am I making this make? What story am I created about this? Right. Um, and then just beating ourselves up. I was coaching a girl, one of my clients, and we're working on body acceptance, right? And I told her we are working on accepting her body and like defining what is a perfect body by optimal health. Okay. And I could tell her brain was like not like buying in. And she looks at me and she says, well, if I start accepting my body, I'm just going to become like a slob. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to want to go work out or eat healthy because I accept my body however it is. And I think that's a belief system a lot of us have, because we think that beating ourselves up is what has gotten us to where we are. That it We think it really drives us, right? Like when we kind of beat ourselves up, talk negative to ourselves, we think that that's the fuel that drives us to get to the gym, to lose the weight, to cut lean out, to hit the PRs, right? Whatever, to be successful at work, is that that's what's fueling the fire. But that fuel is like jet fuel. It burns really hot and really fast and burns out. And so then it stops driving us and we start getting discouraged and we start finding ourselves slowing down or quitting, right? And so it never really achieves goals. Beating ourselves up, if you look at like things that goals that you've wanted to achieve, have you achieved that goal by beating yourself up to there? And most people I talk to, no, they've never achieved a goal. The only way that I've seen people achieve actual like big goals, big deals, is they loved themselves and accepted themselves before they got there. They already felt they were worthy and enough, right? And they loved themselves and they just believed in themselves. So when failure came, they pivoted and they kept moving forward, because the fuel of love and acceptance is very slow burning. It's sustaining, it's sustainable, right? That's what achieves goals. Just like I'm going to go back to this book, Atomic Habits, 1% change. A goal is a result, an outcome. You have to have habits, daily small habits that add up to create the goal, to create the result. So, love and acceptance is what fuels the daily habits to achieve the goal. Um, yeah. So that's kind of how I would say beating yourself up. Like I try to give you an example of like why it's not sustainable. Beating yourself up is not the fuel you want to use to get you where you want to go. That it comes more from an acceptance and a love. That's how you achieve the goals. That's how you create the daily habits, the 1% change, seeing the small victories that will fuel those daily habits that will end up creating the result that you want.
Yes. Well, what came to mind was, during the challenge, journaling,
Mhm.
when I was not able to hit, the required number, I was hard on myself, like lack of discipline, like these are two things that I work on, like being off social media, being off my phone,
Mhm.
even though like I use my phone heavily for my work. So, and I don't know, maybe it's just escape or whatever, like I and every time I go, and then I start hating myself for for doing that. So, and I noticed a lot of negative talk, pointing to my lack of discipline, and or like having desire and decision to journal, let's say 5 times a week. But like if I don't hit it, then I'm hard on myself. You're not disciplined. So negative self-talk definitely comes up instead of focusing on you know uh, celebrating small victories, like yesterday I journaled. It wasn't much, it was just maybe like 10 sentences, like, but it felt so good, like uh, and like even today I thought about it. I didn't journal because I had a busy day, but I was just thinking about it, and that feeling that it gave me,
Mhm.
of accomplishing something. And, so that's what I should be focused on, not, oh, you're not disciplined, yeah.
Yeah. And what's so crazy about it, like to get into the nerdy, like neurochemical stuff, but the focusing like on beating yourself up, like I'm not disciplined, I'm not enough, right? That moves us into the sympathetic nervous system, into those chemicals like stress, cortisol, right? Yeah, those chemicals, like you've never heard of anyone that's addicted to cortisol, right? Like that's not a thing. People are addicted to drugs because of the dopamine hit.
Mhm.
Where do we get dopamine? From rewards,
Yeah.
right? So by you doing the journal and only doing 10 sentences, right? Which I'm going to rephrase that. By you journaling and doing 10 sentences, you got a dopamine hit from it. Good
Hmm.
job, right? Your brain craves that dopamine. So if we want to reinforce a good behavior, we celebrate it because then we release dopamine, which our brain loves and wants more of, and is going to drive you to do behaviors to get more of it because dopamine motivates us to do things.
Hmm.
Versus when we beat ourselves up, we're withholding a dopamine hit, we're causing a cortisol bump. Our brain does not like that. So it's going to start creating like aversion to doing it. Such as when you beat yourself up for not journaling, the brain's going to learn, let's just not journal. Because every time you don't journal, we have to deal with a cortisol bump. And that does not feel good. So we're just going to like keep saying, don't journal, don't journal. Like stay away from that because we're tired of beating ourselves up and feeling this. Versus when you reinforce it with like doing the journaling, or when you don't journal and you're like, that's okay. I was busy today. No big deal. Like, I'm glad that you even thought about doing it. You're giving your brain what it wants. It wants that dopamine hit, which then is going to motivate you to continue to do the behaviors you want to do.
Hmm. Oh yeah, no, that's awesome. That's deep. Yeah, because I definitely don't want that. Cortisol bump, and then the brain, it's negative reinforcement basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, like a lot of people who do have like stress hormones all the time, then they get like adrenal fatigue and kidney issues with kidneys.
They gain weight.
Yes, yes, because cortisol keeps insulin high. Yes.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you can see the cascade of it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, now I kind of want to journal after this.
Funny. Girl, I even have stickers for my journal. And my brain loves those stickers. When I put them in my journal, it's like, oh my God, it's so colorful. Yes.
Oh, actually, that's a great idea.
Wow.
Because I remember buying those stickers for my kids. I don't think they use them, so I can probably steal them back.
Yes. Yeah, but your journal's full of stickers.
Well, you look at it and it just makes you happy. It makes you feel like a kid, right?
Gives me a dopamine hit where I want to do it again, and it
Yeah.
reinforces that behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Anything else, friend?
Oh, well, lessons learned, celebrating small victories. Don't focus on negative, focus on positive. And failure is an opportunity to pivot and learn. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the best question I can always get, like when my brain wants to focus on the negative, it's like, why? Why are you wanting to focus on this? What meaning are you making around this? And as soon as I pop that question to my brain, like, what meaning are you placing around this? I can start feeling my brain backtracking. It's like, oh, she's on to us. Nope. And then it just kind of wants to let go of that negative BS that it wants to get into.
Well, I guess the main thing is awareness.
Yeah.
Being aware of what's happening, because a lot of times we're just not aware, we're indulging.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well said. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Kim.
You're welcome, my friend. Thanks for showing up. For you guys watching this in replay, thanks for showing up. Send me any questions you have, and we will see you guys next week.
Okay, bye.